All right.
Okay. Uh, Temura, and we have Vav Aleph. All animals that are forbidden to be offered on the altar render forbidden other animals in any amount. An animal that is sodomized, an animal that was sodomized, a designated animal that was worshipped, a harlot's wage, a dog exchange, a hybrid, a terefa, and one delivered through cesarean section. What is a designated animal? One that was designated for idolatrous purposes. It itself is prohibited, but what is upon it is permitted. What is one that was worshipped? An animal that was worshipped as an idol, and what is forbidden upon it is forbidden. Both this and both this and this are permitted to be eaten. What is a harlot's wage? If one says to a harlot, "Take this lamb for your wage," even if he gives her 100 lambs, they are all forbidden. Similarly, if one says to his fellow, "Take this lamb and let your maid servant spend the night with my slave," Rebbe said it is not a harlot's wage, but the sage says it is a harlot's wage. What is a dog's exchange? If one says to his fellow, "Take this lamb in exchange for this dog," similarly, if two partners divided the animals between them, one took 10 lambs and one took 9 lambs and a dog, the lambs that are taken against the dog are prohibited, while those that are taken with the dog are prohibited.
Permitted.
Permitted. A dog's wage and a harlot's exchange, these are permitted as is stated two, not four. The offspring of an Esnan and of a Melchir Kelev are permitted as it is stated they and not their offspring. Okay.
Okay. All right. So now so we're looking here at the concept of the Esnan Zanah. The payment for a harlot is if he gave an animal for to a prostitute for her services, then that animal cannot be put on the mizbech. Similarly, and for some reason in the same category is the exchange for a dog. So if somebody did a barter for a dog, that with an animal with a korban grade animal, that animal still cannot go on the mizbech. Okay. Now, what happens if it was money? So he gives money to the prostitute, and then the prostitute says, I want to go and bring a korban. So she wants to use that money to buy a korban. All right, elu mutarin, 100% fine. That's fine because it's not the animal itself. It's specifically it's only when the animal itself was used as an exchange.
Right.
That's it. But not the exchange for the exchange. Right, he's exchanging money for something else. Okay. Any other kind of thing. So let's say he paid her in olive oil or something like that, and she now wants to use that for one of her nesachim. Okay, no, that cannot be brought on the mizbech. Anything that itself gets brought on the mizbech, if it was given as a harlot's wage or as an exchange for a dog, it is not allowed to go on the mizbech. Now, what happens if he takes something that was already kaddish? Mukdashin. So he had a lamb that was already said. He said harezo olah. Okay, and he said, okay, let me give this to the prostitute, and she can bring it. Interestingly, that's actually already mutar because it's not his anymore. Once he has given it as designated as an olah, and all he's done is he's said to the prostitute, okay, you can have the right of bringing this as an olah. Then that's actually okay because he can't remove the kedusha from it by giving it to her. Okay, Orphos, what about birds? Also, hare elu asorin, you can't bring birds on the thing on. So why does the Mishnah have to mention this? Because it was you might have made a bad kal v'chomer. Why? Mishnah spells out what could have been the bad take on this. Shayabadin ma'im hamukdashin shamum posel bahim. You have kaddish animals, and if they get a mum, then they can no longer go on the mizbech. Ein esnanu mechir chalaleihem. But those mukdash animals, even though a mum would puzzle them, but giving them to a prostitute or exchanging them for a dog, it doesn't stop them. So what you see over here is that a mum here is more powerful than the esnan. Okay, but ofos she'ena mum posel bahen. You might make a bad kal v'chomer and say, look, birds are so strong that even a mum doesn't knock them out. So certainly, it just is simply handing it over to a prostitute or for an exchange for a dog that wouldn't puzzle it. Talmud lomar lechol neder lavi esaof. It's there's a pasuk that teaches you don't make this bad kal v'chomer. That's the halacha of Esnan and Mechir also is applicable to bird offerings. Okay. Kol ha'asurim al gabe hamizbeach. Valdosein mutarim. Any animal that is prohibited to put on the mizbeach, if it subsequently gives birth, there's no psul in its offspring. So, for example, Vlad. Well, actually, the first one we jump into is actually a difficult example, with a bit of controversy. So let's give a simpler example. Let's say you had an animal that was an esnan zona. Okay, you can't put this animal in the mizbeach, but the prostitute keeps the animal and breeds it and it has offspring, so the offspring can go in the mizbeach, not a problem. Okay, but vlad treifa, if a treifa animal gives birth, okay, and the animal is alive in treifa, you can see that it's got a hole in its head or some critical injury that it's going to die from at some point, but manages to give birth beforehand. Rabbi Eliezer Omer lo yikrav al gabi hamizbeach, says it cannot be brought in the mizbeach. The psul of the treifa carries on with it to some extent. It's got a bit of isur over the chachamim yikrav. No, if it's a live birth and it's a healthy animal in itself, there's no problem just because its mother was a treifa. Okay. Now, while we're talking about the treifa, let's say what happens if you had a kosher animal that was nursing from a treifa. Right now, we have a general principle that anything that comes from a treifa is treifa. So if you have a cow that's a treifa and you milk it, that milk is asur. Oh. Okay, that's our principle. All right. So now the question that we have is, the calf went and drank milk from its treifa mother. So this calf he says is forever asur to go on the mizbeach because it drank something from its treifa mother. And okay, but this is let me just, before we carry on, I just want he's a minority opinion, because the chachamim hold that within 24 hours the milk is entirely digested. We also see this principle, by the way, in kashrus. We see that if you shecht a calf or a lamb or whatever, and you open up its stomach and find milk inside its stomach, okay. So now, if it had, so the interesting question is, what's the status of that milk? Is it? We have this discussion in the making of cheese. Is that milk, and if it started to ferment and whatever, but the point, I don't want to get sidetracked into all the halachas of kashrus over there, but we see in the halacha over there that if the milk has started to congeal, then it's no longer considered milk. But if it's fresh, it's considered like it came from the mother. So if the mother is a treifa, it's also a treifa milk. And vice versa. If it turns out that the calf was a treifa, but the mother was kosher, but it's still got milk inside there, and you're really desperate for the milk or to make the cheese or whatever, it's fine. It's still kosher. Okay, so it cuts both ways. While it's not yet digested, it's not part of the animal. Okay, so but once it's digested, now it's part of the animal, and that the halacha is that even though it drank from its treifa mother, if you wait 24 hours, you can bring it on the mizbeach, no problem. Okay. Now, what happens if you have a kadosh animal, an animal that was designated for a korban, it had an accident and it's now become a treifa? Okay, so obviously you can't bring it on the mizbeach, but can you redeem it? And the answer is ein podim osam. You cannot redeem it. Why? Because normally an animal that has a mum is still kosher. You can still shecht it and eat it, but a treifa, right, you're not going to be able to shecht and eat. Right? So why can't you redeem this? Ein podim es hakodim la'achil an leklavim, because all that you're going to be able to do with this is kill it and feed its meat to the dogs, or give it to non-Jews to eat or something like that. And we say you can't do that with mukdash, and that's not respectful. So all we can do is put the animal out to pasture, let it live out the rest of its days, and just die, and then you bury it.
This has a halakha. It says that the Eliezer and the sages must be understood as referring to a case where the mother was already pregnant when she was rendered a treifa, and as hinging on the question of whether or not the fetus is used as part of the mother. Halakha is in accordance with the comment of the chachamim, that the fetus is not considered a part of the mother, so the offspring of a treifa, even in this case, is permitted for the altar.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. Of course. Sorry, I kind of it seemed like an obvious statement, because if the offspring was born before the mother became a treifa, then you don't even have a shaila. Of course, it's
Right.
okay, right? If it was, and so it must have been born to a treifa animal. So I didn't see that there was any other kind of option available there. It's either born after it began with treifa or before it became a treifa. So it must have been pregnant while it was a treifa. Okay. יש בקודשי המזבח מה שאין בקודשי בדק הבייס, ויש בקודשי בדק הבייס מה שאין בקודשי מזבח. Okay, so each one has its own stringency. Bedek habayis, things that are going for monetary upkeep, and things that are going for the mizbeach. Okay, each one has its own stringency. Shekodshei mizbeach osim temura. Things that go on the mizbeach, you can it is possible to do temura with them. V'chayvim alei mishum pigul nosar v'tamei. All of the isurim of, if you had the wrong intention for chutz mizmano, then it becomes pigul. If it becomes nosar, if it's left over, then you also get kares from it. And if you eat from it while you're tamei, you also get kares. Vladan v'chalavan asur la'achar pidyonam. And if they developed a mum, and then you redeemed them, nonetheless, the only thing that you can do with an animal that was redeemed because of a mum is eat it. Not its milk, not its offspring, and I think there's no other hana that's allowed from a kodshim animal that was redeemed because of a mum. Okay, so its offspring and its milk are prohibited even after redemption. And if somebody takes one of these animals and shechts it outside the mikdash, he's chayav v'shkutei chutz, also kares. And you may not use them to pay the artisans who do work for the temple. Okay, so these are all the stringencies of the Kodshei Mizbech, and tomorrow we'll pick up more and see what are the stringencies of the Bedek Habayis.
Okay. Aleph Dalet.
Yeah.
Meduma mixture does not create another meduma mixture except according to calculation. And dough that was leavened with Temura, that's wrong. Dough that was leavened with truma does not render forbidden another dough. It leavened except according to calculation. And drawing water does not qualify a mikveh except according to calculation. Mekhat does not become valid. Mekhat except with the placement of the paraduma ashes. A base of pras did not create another base of pras. There is no truma. After truma, a truma temura. And not make a temura.
Yes, they do kind of mess you up a bit.
To make a temura, and the offspring of an offspring cannot make a temura. Rabbi Yehuda says the offspring of an offspring can make a temura, and they said to Rabbi Yehuda, a consecrated offering can make a temura, but neither the offspring of an offering nor a temura can make a temura. Excuse me. Bird offerings and mink offerings cannot make a temura, for the laws of temura was stated only with regard to an animal. The community and partners cannot make a temura, for it is stated, he shall not substitute it. It teaches that an individual can make a temura, but neither the community nor partners can make a temura. Offerings for the upkeep of the temple cannot make a temura. And Reb Shimon said, but he was not Maisa Behema included in the general category of offerings that are subject to temura. And why was this singled out? To draw a comparison to it, just as a Maisa Behema is the offspring of an individual, this excludes communal offerings, just as a Maisa Behema is an altar offering. This excludes offerings for the upkeep of the temple.
Okay.
The chorus. Okay, Bob Olive. On account of the following blemishes, a bakor may be slaughtered. Its ear is not in the cartilage, not in the skin, or it is slit, although nothing is missing, or it has a hole as big as a vetch, or it has dried up. What is considered dried up? Anything that functions does not emit a drop of blood. If you see the Meshulam says it is so dry that it crumbles. An eyelid that is punctured not so slit, and there is a cataract in its eyes, or a commingling, or a snail-shaped, snake-like growth, or a berry-shaped growth. What is commingling? The white breaks through the ring and enters the black. But if the commingling is in the black and enters the white, it's not a blemish, for there are no blemishes in the white. White flecks are water that are permanent. What are permanent white flecks? Any that remain 80 days. Kanina Ben Atiknios says, we examine it 3 times within 80 days. What is permanent water? If it ate fresh and dry fodder from a rain-watered field, but if it ate fresh and dry fodder from an irrigated field, or if they ate dry fodder and afterwards ate fresh fodder, it is not considered a blemish unless it eats the day after the fresh. Its nose is punctured not to a slit or...
We're done. That's
yeah. We're done. Okay. And we're on to Zavacha. Okay, Vav. If he did not remove the crop or the feathers or the entrails which are attached to it, or if he did not saturate it with salt, any deviation which makes it after he drains the blood leaves it valid. If he separated the bird carcass and did not separate the bird ola, he has invalidated it. If he drained the blood of the head but did not drain the blood of the body, it is invalid. But if he drained the blood of the body but did not drain the blood of the head, it is valid. If one performed malika on a bird carcass for a designation other than its own, or drained its blood for a designation other than its own, or for its designation for a designation other than its own, or for a designation other than its own, or for its own designation, it's invalid. A bird ola under such circumstances is valid, except that it is not credited to the owner. Both a bird carcass and a bird ola on which perform malika or drain the blood with the intent to eat that which is meant to be eaten, or to burn upon the altar that which is meant to be burnt upon the altar, outside the area they are invalid. But there's no karas punishment beyond their time. They are pickle, and one is liable for karas for them, provided that the part which makes it permissible has been offered as required. In what manner is the part which makes it permissible considered to have been offered as required? If he perform malika in silence but drain the blood with the intent for beyond its time, or if he perform malika with an intent for beyond its time and drain the blood in silence, and he performed malika and drained the blood both with an intent far beyond its time. These are cases in which the part which makes it permissible is considered to have been offered as required. In what manner is the part which makes it permissible not considered to have been offered as required? If he performed the malika for the blood both for outside its place, or a bird contest on which he performed malika for a designation other than its own, and drained his on it and drained his blood for a designation other than its own. These are the cases in which the part which makes it permissible has not been offered as required. If he intended to eat an olive volume outside and an olive volume tomorrow, or an olive volume tomorrow and an olive volume outside, or he intended to eat half an olive volume outside and half of olive volume tomorrow, or half an olive volume tomorrow and half an olive volume outside, it is invalid. But it bears no karas punishment. Said Rabbi Yehuda, this is the rule. If the intent of the time preceded the intent of place, it is pigel, and one is liable to karas for it. But if the intent of the place preceded the intent of time, it is valid, but bears no karas punishment. But the sages say in either case it is invalid and bears no karas punishment. And if the intent was to eat a half olive volume and to burn upon the altar half of olive volume, it is valid because intent for eating and altar burning does not combine.
Another one.
One more.
It was a long one, yeah.
A bird katos which is made below in the manner of katos offering for the designation of katos is valid, but if he made it in the manner of katos offering for the designation of ola, or in the manner of an ola offering for the designation of a katos, or in the manner of an ola offering for the designation of an ola, it is invalid. If he made it above, if he made it above in any of these manners, it's invalid.
Okay.
And Bubba comment. Okay, base hay. The bull that damages while on the premises of the damagee, how is that? If he gored, pushed, bit, lay down, or kicked in a public domain, he pays half the damages. On the premises of the damagee, Reb Tarfon says the full damages. The sages say, however, half the damages. Reb Tarfon said to them, seeing that where the Torah was lenient regarding Shane and Regal in the public domain, the exemption be granted, it nevertheless dealt stringently regarding them in the premises of the damagee, and that the full damages be paid with the Torah dealt stringently with Karen in the public domain. That half the damages be paid, is it not right that we should deal stringently with it in the premises of the damagee, with the full damages be paid? They said to him, it is enough for the inferred law to be as strict as that from which it is inferred. Just as the public domain, half the damages must be paid, so must half the damages be paid on the premises of the damagee. He said to them, I will not derive Karen from Karen. I will not derive Karen from Regal. I'm seeing that where the Torah dealt leniently regarding Shane and Regal in the public domain, it dealt stringently regarding Karen, where the Torah dealt stringently with Shane and Regal in the premise of the damagee. Is it not right that we should deal stringently with Karen? They said to him, it is enough for the inferred law to be strict as that from which it is inferred. Just as the public domain, half the damages must be paid, so must half the damages be paid in the premises of the damagee. Man is always muad, whether unintentionally or intentionally, whether awake or asleep. And if he blinded another's eyes, it broke blood vessels, he pays the full damages. If one leaves the jug in the public domain and someone else comes along and stumbles over it and breaks it, he is exempt. If he is injured by it, the owner of the jug is liable for the injury. If one's jug broke in a public domain and someone slipped on the water and was hurt by the shards, he is liable. Rabbi Yehuda says, if he intended, he is liable. If he did not intend, he's exempt. Okay. We have Erevin. Okay. Dalit test. This is what they have said. The poor man make an error with his feet. They've said, Mayor, we can apply this only to a poor man. Yehuda says both a poor man and a rich man. They did not say we may make an error with bread, except to make it easier for the rich man so that he did not go out and make an error with his feet. One who set out for a town in which they may make an error, but his friend turned him back, he may go, but all the townspeople are prohibited. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says whoever is able to make an error but does not is caught in between. One who went out of the Tchum, even 1 cubit, may not return. Rabbi Eliezer says 2 cubits he may return, 3 cubits he may not return. One who was overtaken by darkness outside the Tchum, even 1 cubit may not enter. Rabbi Shimon says even 15 cubits he may enter, for the surveyors do not give the full measure because of those who err.
Okay.
And last we have mikvot. I went to a new mikveh this week. I went to the one by Aish Kodesh.
Yeah.
You over there?
I've been there. I usually go to the one on Shacham.
Yeah, I used to go to the big one, but I said I had to go that way anyway. I said, well, let me try and see. It's a little crowded, but
yeah.
Some substances. This is a Zion Aleph. Some substances complete a mikveh and do not disqualify it. Some disqualify a mikveh and do not complete. Some neither complete nor disqualify. The following complete a mikveh and do not disqualify it: snow, hail, sleet, ice, salt, and liquid mud. Said Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael argued with me, saying snow cannot complete a mikveh. But the townspeople of Medva testified in his Rabbi Mishael's name that he had said to them, go and bring snow and make a mikveh from the beginning.
That's one way to create a mikveh. Is just bring bucket loads of snow, dump them in the mikveh, and let it melt. And it's not called by turbine.
It's good. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. 100%.
Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says hailstones are like water. How so do they complete the mikveh and not disqualify it? If a mikveh contains 40 saw less 1 and a saw of these substances fall into it, it completes it. Thus they complete and do not disqualify. The following substances disqualify a mikveh and do not complete it with water, whether tamei or tahor, water in which fruits or vegetables have been soaked, or water in which they have been cooked and marked that has not fermented. How do they disqualify a mikveh and not complete it? If a mikveh contains 40 saw less 1 kwartov and a kwartov of these substances falls into it, it is not completed. They disqualify with 3 lugam. But other defined liquids, fruit juice, fish juice, fish sauce, and mark that is fermented, sometimes complete a mikveh and sometimes do not complete it. How so? If a mikveh contains 40 saw less 1 and a saw of these substances falls into it, it does not complete it. If it contains 40 saw and he put a saw of these substances and then he removed the saw, it remains valid. If one rinsed it in a mikveh, if one rinsed it in a mikveh, olive baskets or grape baskets, and they change its color, it remains valid. Rabbi Yossi says dye water disqualifies it, the mikveh, when it is 3 lugam, but does not disqualify it by change of color. Or if wine or olive sop fell into it, the mikveh, and they change its color, it's invalid. What should one do? He should wait until rain falls and its color returns to the color of water. If it contains 40 saw, he can draw water, carry it on his shoulder, and place it into the mikveh until its color returns to the color of water.
Hey. That's it.
Okay, have a great day.
You too.
Just relax today, right?
Just relax. That's it. Everything's cool now.
Yeah, be well. Bye.
Okay, cheers.